let me just briefly say something about my topic. So my topic is on immigration and managing diversity. And we know that Singapore is a city-state and a very rich culture and a very rich country in terms of its culture and religion and other things. Emerging in the 1980s as one of the four little dragons from the developing third world to the developed first world, and re-emerging at the turn of the 21st century as a key player in the new world geopolitical order, the city-state is now once again confronted with booming immigration and the challenges that come with it. Simultaneously, an old and new nation of immigrants, Singapore has proactively implemented an immigration policy to meet the nation's vital needs for talent and labor in order to make its global economy competitive, and also to resolve severe problems associated with sub-replacement fertility. The country now owes its rapid population growth to immigration, in which the foreign-born component of the population constitutes more than 40% of the total residents population here. As massive immigration remains a policy and a lived reality in Singapore, nativist sentiments and grassroots opposition to immigration, which transcend class and ethnic lines, are also rising. However, the public debate is not neatly split between pro- and anti-immigration sentiments. Key issues are complicated further by the fact that there are various types of immigration. As such, support for or opposition to some types of immigration does not always imply support for or opposition to immigration as a whole in this country. So the issue that immigration has brought to the fore in Singapore, such as super diversity, socio-economic polarization and inequality, social cohesion, national identity, and environmental sustainability are also apparent in Singapore. And these issues are not just unique to Singapore, and it's also very obvious in other major immigrant gateway cities, like my home city in Los Angeles. Among those common issues is one of diversity. That's a question that I would like to raise. And diversity, what is diversity, and also how to cope with and manage it from bottom up rather than just from top down from the government imperatives. And we know that diversity is everyone's everyday experience in global cities like Singapore. As someone like me moving from one immigrant city to another, I'm meeting diversity on a day-to-day basis, and also in Singapore with a unique set of diversity with local flavor. For example, language is an issue when we talk about cultural and religious diversity and social diversity. Take me as an example. I moved originally from China and then to the US and then now back to Asia, to Singapore. And the language issue has always been an issue to me. I'm Cantonese, so when I'm in China, I am disadvantaged by the language because I don't speak standard Chinese, right? So when you are running into the language issue, it's not just when you are foreigner, even when you are native, you have that issue. So when I'm in Singapore, I speak English with an accent. So when you speak English to people, and also you have a non-mainstream face, right? A non-white face, and then people would immediately think of you as fob, fresh off boat. And that's a derogative term. And like our children who grew up here, they are detest to be asked, where are you from? Because they got anxious. When people ask where they are from, they don't know what to answer because they were from here and they are afraid that the questioner would further ask a question, where you really from? Until you name a country outside the US, then the questioner would be satisfied. So I would run into that problem in the US all the time, daily basis. When I say, oh, I'm from Los Angeles, people would say, no, you cannot be from Los Angeles. I said, okay, I'm from China. That's right. So, so not to speak to my children who grew up in China, right? And then when I moved to Singapore, a different dynamic. It's not my English that caused an issue because everybody in Singapore has an accent, right? So when I talk to people, when I start to talk to people, they are say, fresh from China? 刚从中国来啊? Because I speak Mandarin with an accent, with a Chinese accent. So immediately people would think of me as the Xin Yimin, as the new Chinese immigrant. You know, and other kind of like a distinction for your identity, for better or for worse, right? So that's one of the things that we interact with people. And my point is that when you are in a different setting, the important thing to manage diversity is to try to strike at a mutual understanding and also try to respect for differences. So when we talk about multiculturalism, it's not that you have to melt in one culture or the other, but rather different culture can coexist, but you know, people from different cultural background respect one another. And also, it's important when we think about building diversity to build mutual respect, not only to learn from each other, respect from each other, but also to build self-awareness that your viewpoint is just representing one of many, many viewpoints. And there is no right or wrong answer in particular things. And you have to think about issues from other people's perspective. And in an immigrant city like Singapore, it's tremendously important to strike at that mutual understanding and mutual respect and mutual and self-awareness.